Hey everyone, it's Sarah here of the Sisters Enchanted, and I am just pulling up our video over here on Facebook so I can better access it and follow along with the comments. It's not showing up for me yet. So today we are chatting about creating a lunar home. This is I love teaching this class. It's so fun to teach, and it's just not popping up. Where is it? And we are, oh, there it is. Oh, there's all the sound. Oh, Anna's here in the comments. Let's see here. I love when it suggests for me to follow my own self on Facebook. So it's May 28th, 2020. And yeah, let's chat about creating a lunar home. If anybody is new here, I see lots of familiar faces in the comments, or those of you that are here. Anybody who's new here, I'm Sarah. I'm the founder of the Sisters Enchanted, where we have been bringing everyday magic and encouraging women to lean into their intuition and conjure more joy in their lives since 2016. So we've had tens of thousands of women in our programs online, our free programs, and we've got a couple thousand students in our online classes. So yeah, we're really excited to bring more of this to you guys here today. Hi, everyone from all around the places. So creating a lunar home. Why are we talking about this? I think that in particular, with what we all just went through, or what we are still going through, right, with this like whole world shutdown thing, for many of us, we've probably been on this pendulum of like pure chaos to, wow, I have so much time and space, to pure chaos to, wow, I have so much time and space, and just like flipping between those, which makes sense because, you know, a lot of us are like trying to manage 8 things at home that we didn't have to manage before, but then we might also be noticing that the evenings and weekends are a lot more spacious and open. My word for this year, the vision I set for 2020, was to feel spacious. And earlier in the year, Anna and I were teaching a class. I'm just moving my chair. And I said something about how this year has been so great so far. And then in our membership program community, one of the women said something like, haha, Sarah, remember when you said this? And I was like, well, it has been spacious. This year has been spacious. But many of us may have maybe feeling this like, well, wow, how can I hang on to some of this spaciousness, right? How can I slow down? And that's where creating your lunar home comes in. So this is a class actually that I've taught a few times, and I'm bringing it to you live stream style today. So it's going to be a little bit different. And before we get into creating a lunar home, which is really about slowing down, making space for things to happen, and acknowledging ebbs and flows in everybody's energetic system, let's talk a little bit about working with the moon in general and what that looks like. So you can find evidence of working with moon phases and working with the moon throughout all cultures and all of history. So literally, if you start researching, and this is another class that I teach, so maybe I'll teach this one too, but there are tons of, oh, Tina from South, that's so, I'm watching, I can't watch the comments and talk. Tina, we fly Southwest all the time. Tina says from Las Vegas, flight attendant with Southwest, and we are here for you when you're ready to fly. Fly again. We love Southwest, Tina. It's like the only airline I ever want to fly, so hi. Anyway, random. Whenever I can't fly Southwest, I get really annoyed, and I'm like, I guess we don't actually want to go to that place. So there you go. Anyway, Bonnie was just listening to that episode. Yeah, no, right? We were just talking about our Southwest points this morning and like what we should do. Anywho, so working with the moon, you can find evidence of this throughout all cultures, all of history. And the moon, as we look at it now, is often regarded as this feminine energy. We'll hear about grandmother moon. It's associated with the sign of Cancer. It's at home in the sign of Cancer. And it's the mother in one's birth chart often, like can indicate some things about how you were nurtured. And Cancer is that very emotional, nurturing energy. We think of like the Queen of Cups, who's very nurturing. The moon card in tarot, the High Priestess card. It's all this like moon inner stuff that we associate with very feminine energy. But often in history, it was reversed. There's many different stories across different cultures where the sun is feminine and the moon is masculine, which can make a lot of sense as well, right? So I think everything's a balance of both masculine and feminine, but we need that sun, right? That like nurtures the earth. And then if we look at the moon as being this like inner darker stuff that we might be more like aggressive in its response to things when backed into a corner. I can see that perspective. But so sometimes the moon was looked at as masculine, sometimes feminine, all different stories. It's a really cool thing to dive into, learning about the moon throughout history. When we see the Middle Ages start to come about and the rise of modern Christianity, we see the word lunacy really starting to grab hold and become a thing that's in language and written language. And this is the idea. You think of lunar, the word lunar, la luna, lunacy, right? It has that same root there. And this is the idea that we're blaming things that are happening on the moon. And we start to see werewolves, vampires, the word moonsick comes about. And it's really trying to explain unexplainable things at the time, which we now know are like sometimes medical things, sometimes it's hormonal things. Like we now know there's reasons for stuff that's happening. But in the Middle Ages, they didn't know. And so we see lunacy being associated with the moon, which is where we get some of these stories again about like werewolves, vampires, things like that taking foothold, and which is also the underlying connection to a woman's menstrual cycle and the idea of lunacy and like what's happening there. And we now know, like I said, it's just like hormones and changes and things we're experiencing, right? And so there's some really cool stories about the sacred moon time and how the moon, like there's this one story of a woman who was just so burdened, like in her energy and her soul, and she walks to the edge of the ocean, and the moon is out, and she just asks for relief, and then that's the first time that she sheds blood out, right, like out her body, and that's this relief that she's getting from the burdens of things that she's carrying. So lots of really cool stories that you can look up. So again, you can see this in all cultures, even modern cultures and traditions. There are celebrations with like the first moonrise after a specific date. It's a very cool thing that's honored in different ways all around the world. And as we look at it now, there's this rise of slowing, right? Like people wanting to slow down, tap back into their own energies, like figure out how you can work smarter, not harder in your life. There's like the idea of the 4-day work week. Like we're in all areas of life, we're trying to figure out, how do I have more time for joy? How do I have more time to do the things that light me up and not just spin my wheels 80 hours a week doing who knows what? And I think that that's where this rise of like leaning into our lunar cycles and what's happening with us and when are our best energetic times. I think that's why we're seeing this rise in that. So it's nothing new. And you can see the moon worked with, again, throughout all cultures, all of history, even now in modern days in all different ways, right? And that's where creating a lunar home comes in. So why might you want to create a lunar home? Really creating a lunar home space, or a space that acknowledges the phases of the moon and what's happening around us. It's a call to slow down and get in the rhythm of that. We are surrounded by artificial light, artificial sound, artificial everything. And don't get me wrong, like I love technology. I love some streetlights on the highway so we can take road trips and drive all night. Like I am a fan of those things, but it does impact us. It impacts our ability to rest, because you can go anywhere at any hour because it's never dark. You can do anything at any hour because of the internet and your computer and your phone, right? Like we can all do all these things that are very accessible to us. But that takes us away from our own natural rhythms, and it makes it hard for us to slow down and recharge. When we create a lunar home, if you live with other people and you do this with other people, and you kind of bring this idea of working with a lunar calendar or lunar phases into your home, it can make for some great family memories, bring you all closer together. So a lot of really cool stuff that happens when we stop and we look at what's happening with the moon. What do we do? How are we feeling energetically? It's good for you. It's good for your relationships. And your house is an energetic being as well. Like your house carries all of the memories that have come before it. The land that it lives on carries those memories. So slowing down just helps bring all of these different energies, like instead of being one constantly swirling pool of like craziness, it slows everything down, right? And it's easier. it's easier to relax and be like, oh, this is what's happening. So here are some things that we can do to create a lunar home. I've got lots of ideas for you. And Tina says, I use the phases of the moon feature on my Apple Watch. Yeah, I have that on there too, right on the home screen. So I always know what time it is, what phase the moon is in, and I forget what else I have on there. But those are the important ones. So anyway, there are some things that you can do. So the first idea I have for you in creating a lunar home is to host kind of a new moon or you could do both, a full moon check-in with your family. I have my notes here, which is why I keep looking down. See, this is originally a class, so I have the slides all printed out. Host check-ins with your family at the new moon and the full moon, or just with yourself if you live by yourself. If you're a person who has pets and you're like really in tune with your pets, you could even all sit together and just be like, like have that communal communication and energy check-in with everybody and with your house as well. And just check in and see, how is everybody feeling right now? It's a new moon, like the sky is dark. This is that more intuitive, quiet time. How's everybody feeling? At the full moon, that's that time when the sky is alive and the moon is this big, beautiful thing above us, right? It's energizing us. Some people feel really exhausted by that. If you're a person who's exhausted by a lot of energy, the full moon might be very exhausting. And having that check-in with your family can help you to identify that. It's one of the reasons why I love lunar tracking so much. You can also have a special tradition or ritual that you do at the new or full moons just to mark these like 2-week chunks of time. So the new moon to the full moon, that's our waxing portion of the lunar cycle. So that's when we're growing things. We're taking action. We are we're watering the seeds of intention. We're bringing things up, right? And then from the full moon back to the new moon, those last 2 weeks, that's our waning portion of the lunar cycle. And that's when we're resetting, we're resting, we're reflecting on what happened before, and just kind of getting ready for another 2 weeks of an active portion of our cycle. And so depending on your hormonal cycle, that might not align with that, which could impact how you're feeling. So if you have people in your home that are like really on par with what the moon is doing, but maybe you're not, that's good to know. And you don't know that though, unless you're checking in. So the full moon and new moon are great times to do that. And you can also have a sort of, like I said, a tradition or a ritual where maybe you do a night walk at the new moon. And on that night walk, this is great if you have teenagers, kids, young, or even just like your partner or friends who live nearby or whatever. Take a night walk on a new moon when it's totally dark, like there's no moon in the sky, and just imagine like experience that, and then do it again 2 weeks later with that full moon, and then experience that and just see how life is growing all around, like how things are growing and changing all around you, right? All the time. So have a special thing that you do to mark those moments. Another thing that you can do is name the moons. So you probably have heard the full moon names, right? There's like the buck moon, the strawberry moon, the harvest moon. There's all these moon names. And those come from different indigenous traditions. And depending on where you are, those will be different. So even all across North America, where there's the strawberry moon and it's time for strawberries to be blooming, that might not be the case for somebody else, right? Or the harvest moon might not be the case for somebody else, or the wolf moon or the howling moon or whatever you call it. Those are like a culmination of the most kind of well-known names over time that have been all put together. But really, depending on where you live, that would vary because the same things weren't always happening all around the world. So somebody who's in the southern hemisphere is having a different moon experience because they're on opposite seasons as us in the northern hemisphere, right? Or like where I am in Connecticut is different from what people are experiencing in Florida or Mexico. That's not the same. Like it's warm there pretty much all the time. And here it's snow and gets cold. And then even me to somebody like way up north in Canada, that's different because there could still be snow in there now. And we're like wanting to turn on the air conditioner. So depending where you are, these moon names might not even really be relevant. A good example of this is the hunter moon. And this is where you can come up with your own names that are relevant to you and your family. or just yourself and what your experience is. So the full hunter moon, that's a time when people would traditionally have been hunting, right? To survive the winter, because there was a time when you needed to get all of this food together. All of this food needed to be together so that you could survive the winter. And that's what Yule is about. That's about you light the Yule log to make it through the darkest night and hope that you're going to survive the winter because you have no idea. And so at the hunter moon, that's when you need to be hunting and gathering. And at the harvest moon leads up to that, right? And getting all this stuff together. I'm not a hunter. This is 2020. I need food. I go to the store. I go to a farmer's market. Like, I buy food from people who farm, who harvest. I buy food from people who do those things. I don't personally do those things. I can't even keep a spider plant alive. So I do other things. So for me, the hunter moon, while I understand the spirit of it and I understand why that name is a commonly used name, it's not relevant to my life. But what happens for me during that time? For us, we like to call that like the falling leaf moon, because that's when all of the leaves fall. Anna says I do gather. I do wild forage for random things. I'm always like, look at all this edible food, Anna. And she's like, what are you even talking about? Like, just so much of it right here. But that's a whole other story. So teaching my kids to just eat stuff, which I should probably be more wary of, but I'm that mom. So anyway, for us, it's falling leaves. Like, we know the leaves are all going to fall during that time. And that would be like more relevant to our family. So what does that have to do with creating a lunar home? That helps you see like experiences that are relevant to you, experiences that are relevant to your life, which helps you slow down and remember what's happening around you. So we all have those moments where you're like, you work all week, you're so busy doing all the things, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what happened? The leaves were orange overnight, unless you live in Florida, and then maybe you don't experience this, or like like a state where this doesn't happen. But here in Connecticut, it seems to go overnight. One day everything's green, and the next it's orange, and the next it's on the ground. And it happens so fast that if you're not slowing down and you're not aware of it, you're not seeing what's happening around you, then you're definitely not pausing to see what's happening within you, because you're just so consumed by life. So having these names and having a calendar and knowing like, this is our moon, this is what happens at this time, this is the tradition, or this is what happens for me, and incorporating that into your home life and the experience that you have all the time, it slows you down and helps you to align yourself with what's going on. So you all know, like, that first spring day when you feel like, yes, I can open the windows and we're going to clean out all the closets and we're going to, I don't know, dust the ceiling fan, things you haven't done in months. You get this like rise of energy when it's springtime and it's the first warm day. So if you can look at what you know to be true about your full moons as you experience them, that also helps you to better plan your life around those, because you are going to do things that are more in alignment with that. So in the winter, right, like, you're probably not going to be super jazzed to clean all the nooks and crannies and get the air moving, because you can't open the windows depending where you live. But if you know that, like, oh, this is the ice moon, we always have freeze and frost during this time. So this is the time that we make soup and we watch extra movies and we go within, right? Then that's a good time for that. So let's see here. Virginia, do you recommend a calendar to use? I don't actually. We have one that we make. We have a printable that starts on the new moon each month. So instead of having like January, February, March, each calendar page starts at a new moon. So it's a moon thing. I don't have a calendar that I purchased to follow the moon. I use the one that we printed, and then we have a lunar tracker, this Living Your Lunar Year tracker that we make, and I use that. But I don't know if maybe Anna or somebody else watching has like a different one to recommend. Let's see here. Sherry says, I follow the moon daily and actually time a lot of cleansing and blessings around it. Yes, exactly. That's what we do with the lunar tracker that we have, is we encourage, like, this is one from one cycle. We all go through and track the lunar cycle and do like a little moon work there and have all these cool intuitive things. but I think that it really does change your life when you slow down to use the moon, right? Okay, so we talked about following the moons, naming your own moon. We talked about, what else did we talk about? We talked about doing the new moon and full moon check-ins. Yeah. All right. That's also a really great time it's also a really great time to look at stories and mythology and legend and myth and lore that aligns with that part of the season, right? Because you're slowing down to look at the moon phases, we can slow down to read stories that align with those. So I am a mom of little kids. I also am a new homeschooling mom, not because of the pandemic, but I homeschooled my daughter in kindergarten this year. And one thing that I see a lot is people that follow like a mainstream religious path often have like a Bible study, or they're reading about the thing that they believe in. So for me, that looks like mythology and lore and story and traditional story and oral storytelling, right? So for us, we make a practice of the different lunar phases of finding books that align with seasonally, like what's happening around us. And then that's how we incorporate story and tradition into our day. We talked about naming the moons. Let's see here. What else do I have on my notes here? Looking at the differences between what you have scheduled on your traditional calendar, your Gregorian calendar, versus a lunar calendar. So what it looks like if you're just going through and haphazardly scheduling your things in, like a dentist appointment here, a doctor's appointment here, like the roofer's coming on this time. That can be fine and dandy, but if you're feeling really chaotic and overwhelmed and like you just haven't had any time to breathe ever, then slowing down and looking at these phases of the moon and scheduling and planning by that can be really, really helpful. So those first 2 weeks where everything is growing, right? Those are great times, the new moon to the full moon, to have more things on your plate, to have the roofer come, to schedule all the things you need to do. And then make sure you're setting aside time to relax, like for 2 weeks, and just regroup and gather and plan for the next 2 weeks. But if you're just looking at a regular calendar, you don't have those markers on your schedule to make that happen. Versus if you're looking at a lunar calendar, or you have one that has a full moon and a new moon on it and you're planning by that, then you can work that into your time. So additionally, looking at how you feel during the day. So each day is 24 hours, right? And we have midnight till like the morning time, and then we have morning till like middle of the day to evening to midnight again, right, when we're sleeping. So we can also look at those as energy phases. So this like waxing part of a lunar phase would align with the energy of that first half of a day. We're more awake, we're more alert, we're getting stuff done, versus the second half of the day. So we can really start to see how we feel in terms of lunar phases, and then how we feel energetically during the day, and plan all sorts of things around that, which is like a really cool thing about looking at phases and moon cycles and all of that good stuff, right? So that we just really slow down and lean into the times that work best for us, as opposed to just haphazardly scheduling things. Another really cool thing that you can do to create a lunar home is have something in your house that allows you to build, like see what's happening. So I love this image of a flower, and in our holistic witchery program, we have a whole moon thing that we do. And there's an 8-part meditation series that takes you through this flower visualization. And so it's like the seed, and then things are growing and whatever. So you could actually have in your home, it can be like something that you make, something that you draw. It could just be something that you draw over time. But if you start to look at the different phases of the moon, so the new moon, the first quarter, the new moon, the waxing crescent moon, the first quarter moon, the waxing gibbous moon, the full moon, the disseminating moon, the third quarter moon, and then the balsamic moon. Again, if you look at all of those, it's 8 phases. 9 if you want to count yourself a dark moon. That's a whole other topic. But we can look at these phases of the moon, and you can actually create imagery in your home to help you see what's happening with those. So maybe looks like you just draw it out. So maybe at the new moon, you have a place in your home. It could be like a whiteboard or a chalkboard or whatever trendy thing you want. chalkboards are trendy. Maybe you at the new moon, you like draw your seed, you plant your seed, right? And then it's a couple days later, the waxing crescent moon, you check back in with your intention and you draw like the little bud coming up. I'm no artist, so. And then maybe at the first quarter moon, you know, we're taking action, and that's, I guess you'd probably have something bigger than this. And that's when we're like, we bust through the surface now at the first quarter moon, right? And then we have the waxing gibbous moon, and we have like a bud that's about to form. And then maybe at the full moon, this bud turns into a flower, and then it starts to shed with each little thing until it's finally back down again. And I guess if you use something erasable, you could erase all this as it goes. But having a piece in your home or a place where you do this can, again, help you to slow down and tap into what's happening around you, because you're slowing down to say like, oh yeah, this is that energetic time. This is that bursting through time. This is that growth time. Now this is that time where I'm releasing back to the earth. This is the time where I'm slowing back down. Everything's getting smaller and it's getting ready to start again. And particularly if you live with other people or you have kids or teenagers, that can just be something that like everybody does. Everybody stops and says, where are we today? And then we build this thing together. Like, what's your intention? What's your family intention? What's the one thing we're all working on? And then do that together, which can be really cool. Another thing that can be really fun is to create some piece of art, a collage, affirmations, whatever it is, at the new moon or the full moon, whatever works for you and yours, and collect them throughout the year. So then at the end of the year, you essentially have this remembering of what happened throughout the whole year, because you can make them either around an intention that you're setting together or just by yourself. You can hang them up, like if you have the space in your home, or if you're a crafty sort of person. I always think of like Pinterest images with the strings and the clips, you know, and like hanging the stuff. I'm not, my house is not Pinterest worthy, but that kind of thing, right? And you could either do this, like I said, full moon or new moon or both if you really wanted to, but keep these so you see your progression of what's going on for you. Like, what are the highlights of this lunar cycle to come? Where are you at with your intention? How are you remembering it? You know, all of those good things, and collect them. And at the end of the year, you have all these really awesome things to look back on, right? Another activity that I'm just going to bust through really quickly is tapping into astrology. Now, this was a fun activity to do when I first did it and thought about it, is looking at what the moon sign is for all of the different people who live in your house. So the moon is ruled by Cancer, or the moon rules Cancer. Which way does that go? Anyway, the moon and Cancer are they're best buds. And Cancer is very nurturing, and it's this like, it's where you feel at, it's like this warm hug, right? Which should be your home space theoretically. So if you look at everybody's moon sign, all the people that you live with, that can tell you a little bit about what people might need in their home. Now there's more to this. Like, you can look at different houses and whatever, what people need according to where things are on their birth chart. We're not going into all that nitty gritty right now, but check out your different moon signs. So I have my list here in front of me, and what people might need. So a Tauruses love that, like, Tauruses love beautiful things, right? So a person with a Taurus moon might want like plush pillows, blankets, warm smells and colors, an inviting kitchen. A Gemini moon, big windows. That's that air, like wanting to see and talk and like experience and like be in all different places at once. Big windows, lots of space to move around in, which is different than a Taurus, right? A Taurus is going to want that, like, oh, this feels like a nest. And a Gemini is going to be like, I need I don't want a nest. Like, I need to be able to flap my wings in open space. So there's two different things. So if you're a Taurus moon and someone you live with, like, say you're a Taurus moon and you have a 17-year-old who's no, you're a Gemini moon, so you want space, right? And you have a 17-year-old who's a Taurus moon, and they just want stuff in their room, and they want like pillows and all these, and you're like, I can't go in there, it's too much. Then that could explain why there's a difference there. A Cancer moon, maybe like a book nook, a quiet, cozy corner, some candles, again, that cozy feeling to really calm down. A Leo moon, mirrors. Leo's that lion, like wants to be seen and shine. Mirrors, lots of light reflecting, statement art, family photos, like likes to see themselves. A Virgo moon, similar color palettes, so like crazy colors everywhere would not suit a Virgo moon. Small pops of color, minimal and well organized, clean, like not lots of chaos going on. A Libra moon, airy with lots of plants, spaces for people to gather. So like some balance there. Like we want people to be able to come, but it also needs to feel open. That's Libra with those scales of justice. A Scorpio moon may like each room to have a different feel or theme. Lamps with subdued lighting, no jarring overhead lighting. So Scorpio is like that transformation kind of sign. So like different experiences everywhere. A Sagittarius moon, a big yard, house with windows, lots of books, and like maybe even just lives in an RV so they can travel about and see everything. Capricorn moon, a more practical home where things have their places so everyone knows where things are. Maybe a small home office to work in. Capricorn's that CEO of the zodiac, so they can make phone calls or keep their important papers somewhere very specific. An Aquarius moon, I'm an Aquarius moon. A room for artistic activities or work that can easily be switched around to accommodate various activities, which is really interesting because we have a small house, but our main living area where we spend most of our time, like we work there sometimes, we homeschool there, we do art there, we eat there, we host parties there. Like it's all centered around this one table that can be all the things to all the people whenever we need it to be. And it has like 2 leaves so we can make it huge or cram it in. So it's the whole thing just like morphs. So it makes so much sense. Yeah, Anna's a Capricorn moon, likes a tidy home. I know. Yeah. I like my home to be functional. I have 5 planets in Sagittarius, so I'm all like about moving around like a crazy person. Rising sign is not the same as the moon. So you have a rising sign, a moon sign, a sun sign. You have like a sign for everything. Jupiter, Saturn, like everything's in the sign. But rising and moon are different. And then a Pisces moon likes an inviting space, lots of blues, maybe some on the floor seating, and extra rooms for people to stay in. Pisces is bringing people together. It's that school of fish, everybody moving as one, as a collective. So that's another interesting thing to do when thinking about creating a lunar home, is look at the people in your home and create your home energetically around that. Another really fascinating thing that you could do, which would be totally wild, but is to look at your actual home. And if you know the build date, like, and this would be very per person, like either the date that the foundation was poured, the date that it was finally done. I mean, you'd have to lean into what your intuition's telling you about that thing. Like when I look at the birth chart for the Sisters Enchanted, I look at the day and time that I purchased our web domain, because that was like the first real stake in the ground that I did. So for you, like what was your first real stake in the ground, or the time that you moved into your home or signed like your lease or your mortgage or something, and see what sign the moon was in then, and like kind of see what the energy of the house is bringing to you in connection to what you're bringing in and what the people you live with are bringing in. And I think you can do some really cool stuff with that, particularly if you feel like you just don't jive in your house. Like it's just, you're like, me and this house just aren't meshing. Just look and see like, where can we come together here? And maybe the house needs something different energetically than what I need, right? Like that could be a thing that you want to think about, and like a fascinating thing to look at. I love looking at the birth chart of like stuff and times of things that happened and seeing how all of that works together. So creating a lunar home, it's really about incorporating the phases of the moon into your life. And because we're talking homes here, the lives of the people who you live with. So if you live with nobody, then it's a little bit easier, right? Because it's just you. You get to like pick what you want to do. But if you live with other people, incorporating this into your whole home, like what is happening on the home front for all of you together? How can you slow down? How can you be moving forward together, following the phases of the moon? How can you create family stories and memories? How can you as a group, like remember this time, or think about what's going to be the best time for you to do something, looking at your own energy, like what happens during the day with the different phases and whatnot. And how does your energy relate to the moon? And then like, if you're a person who's experiences a menstrual cycle or ever has in their life, how does that impact with the moon, right? I know from experience, I have a shorter cycle than the moon. I like TMI about Sarah. I'm a firm 26-day cycle person. The moon's like 28 change, 29 days. So that is not the same. So I'm like always at a different place. Like I ebb and flow around the moon, and it's really like around how the moon's moving. So it's really interesting to see how I'm relating to a full moon one time versus another time versus another time, and like just getting all this information about when I perform the best, when my kid performs the best, when my husband performs the best, like when we all feel really good in our home and when we don't feel really good in our home, when we all feel like we need an adventure, right? And just working with the moon can really help to see all of this. But also it's about coming together and slowing down to experience life. And I started this by talking about how you may have, in this weird time that we're in, been on this pendulum of like, whoa, things are crazy, to whoa, it's really nice to have all this space. Things are crazy, space. Things are crazy, space. And like fall somewhere in there. But the space, if you've been able to experience any of that, is awesome. And how can you cultivate more of that in your life going forward? Slow down. How do you slow down? Create a lunar home. Bring some of this into your life so you're doing it all the time. All right, let me look at some comments here. I am starving. It is lunchtime. I think I was kind of following along. I know Anna and I saw Christina here in the comments too, helping out. So I think that you guys have mostly been answering questions along the way. Let's see here. Just checking back in. Yes, being mindful of the cycles. Yvonne says, this class helped me a lot to learn about my cycles and be more conscious of how each cycle of the moon affected my mood and my family. Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Let me scroll back down. I think you guys I think you guys handled all the comments. Just trying to do a quick run through before I go take a lunch break on this day. Yeah, Christina's, and I see she's helping out with the rising sign thing. Yeah, Christina's a graduate of our astrology class, so she knows her stuff. Let's see here. Oh, Jackie says Cancer moon and 4 planets in Taurus. I need my precious things around me. Yeah, my daughter is a Cancer. She is she's a Cancer sun. I forget her moon sign. I'll have to look. Anna might know it. Anyway, she is a stuff person. My daughter, stuff. Let's see here. And I see everyone's, you guys posting that link. Yeah, we teach about all of this in our holistic witchery class too, which that we open that for enrollment in June, the end of the month. Anna, can you put the waitlist link in here if you're on your computer? Let's see here. Just reading through. Shelly, I wasn't reading about the rising sign. I was reading about moon signs. Yeah, we don't have it on like a printable thing to give out. We do in our Expedition to Soul class, which is our, that's a free class we do in June also. That starts June 17th. We'll get the links out in like a couple of weeks. So you'll check your email and sign up for that. But we do a whole day on moon signs in that class. And that does have a printable of like different moon signs. We call it going into the cave and kind of exploring our inner selves, because that's really that's like your inner stuff, your shadow stuff, right? Is that whole moon sign thing. And then also your moon sign can be a pretty like a good indicator too of sometimes relationships with mothers, nurturing figures, which we know impacts us a lot, like who we are and how we move through the world. So it's a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, and Anna put the link in the comments for the Holistic Witchery waitlist if anybody's interested in joining that. We always do like an extra gift for people that are on the wait list when the class opens up. So nope, the free classes are not limited on enrollment. Lots of people, we had last year like 20,000 something people take the Expedition to Soul class. So when it opens up, you just join and that's it. Let's see. And Christina says, I like to take that class every time it's offered. Expedition to Soul is like, people take it every single time and get something different from it every time they take it. It's really good. And so that'll start June 17th. And then somewhere in the beginning of June, we'll have enrollment open for that, which is right around the corner now that I'm realizing that it's May 28th. Like, I don't even know, the days are flying by. But soon we'll send that out in the weekly email. So we send emails every week. So the registration will be in there. We'll put it on Facebook and all that good stuff. But yeah, our holistic witchery class, we just did the graduation on our page for those students and our astrology students. And that's where we go really in depth into like personal energy and more on tarot card reading and the moon phases and seasons and shadow work and like everyday magic stuff like ritual. And it's just like, it's like such a good class. It's so much stuff. Anyway, but that's it. So create a lunar home, y'all. So thank you guys for hanging out with me for today. It's a short little class for you, but really it's just slow down. And a great way to do that is by watching the phases of the moon, because it moves slowly over like a little less than a month, right? Over a month's time. And if we really slow down, I'm going to cough. If we really slow down to move with that time, our lives are enhanced. We slow down and we move through life in a better way. So there you go. Let's see. Raquel, what was your question? Plan taking every class. I'm so slow and currently behind in this course, but hope you are always reoccurring your courses. Yes. Yep. Always. You can, we always like do them again. We never take anything away. So there you go. All right, guys. Well, enjoy the rest of your day and, get on that wait list if you're interested in learning more. And that is it. I think no new announcements for this day. We'll have, that's it. All right. I hope everyone has a great day and I'll talk to y'all soon. Okay, bye.